This thing right here is my FujiFilm X100T. I recently took a trip to Joshua Tree, California, which is in like the southern part of California, a few hours from LA. And for this trip to Joshua Tree, I decided to leave behind all my Fujifilm lenses as well as my Fujifilm X-T1 and X-T3. Instead, I just brought this, a much less versatile camera. So then, what exactly happens when you do this? This Fujifilm X100T is super portable. I have a bunch of food allergies, so I'm always carrying an EpiPen, which means I'm basically always carrying a small backpack with me to carry that EpiPen along with some other stuff. And this thing just slid right in there, no problem. No problem at all. I honestly could forget that it's in my backpack. Another thing that worked great with this camera is the design. It makes me want to pick it up. To me, it's kind of just a piece of art, and this build quality is freaking awesome. Speaking of awesome, this shooting experience with this X100T is just so intuitive and so fun. Having this rangefinder style EVF that's off to the side is really comfortable for just holding it up to your face and getting the shot, and honestly, I almost never use this back screen because of that. I felt like some kind of like news reporter or something out there in Joshua Tree, rather than just someone using their piece of tech. Also, this aperture ring is so clicky and super easy to use without even looking at it. So if I do this, I know I'm at f2. If I do this, I'm back at auto. Like, super easy, super intuitive. Another thing that worked amazing for traveling was using the film sims that Fuji has baked into this camera. I exclusively used classic chrome and black and white with a yay filter for yellow. Literally the only reason I picked the yellow filter was because it said yay, which is like kind of funny because Kanye, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny. I don't know the actual purpose of the yellow filter. If someone can comment that down below, that would be really helpful. But yeah, with these film sims, there's basically no need for editing. In fact, all the photos that I'm showing you right now are straight out of camera. Zero editing. Some things that were kind of mid but still worked were the autofocus and dynamic range. They were generally fine. I did find with the dynamic range that I kind of had to pick and choose what parts of my scene would be crushed or blown out, but that kind of adds to the creative experience. And the autofocus didn't really get in my way much, but sometimes at night especially it would hunt a little, so there's just that to keep in mind. Presetting your focus by press and holding and then reframing is a big tip to use with this camera, and if you want to know more about that, watch this video. So there's a couple things that really didn't work for me on this trip that I kind of regretted not bringing my other cameras because of. One thing is the startup time. Let me show you. 1, 2, and done. And then you gotta wait for the autofocus. So like, honestly, it doesn't seem that crazy, but it did kind of get in my way sometimes, especially since it makes like some sounds when you start it up because it's gotta like move the lens elements. It just feels a little bit clunky. It gets in my way a little bit because I like to conserve battery by switching that thing off. Yeah, I just need like a lightning fast camera, honestly, with the way I shoot. Speaking of battery, the battery life in this thing is pretty bad, especially when you're using an external flash like I was for some of these night shots. So because of that, you end up switching the camera off a lot, and then when you want to switch it back on, you have to wait a solid second for it to come back on. With a lot of my newer cameras, you can literally flip photo. With this one, you gotta wait a beat. Another thing that disappointed me was the high ISO performance. Everything just kind of gets noisy and mushy when you turn it up above 1600, which, I mean, that's expected for a camera that's like over 10 years old, but it just kind of disappointed me when I got back from the trip and I checked out those nighttime photos. I thought they were really well shot, but that high ISO just kind of made it harder to want to print or anything of that sort. Now, I already mentioned that I was using external flash, but that is because this internal flash is just meh. It's just a little LED that flashes, and it honestly barely makes any difference for nighttime, and especially not for daytime. The final thing that I thought was a little strange with this camera was I think the EVF was slightly inaccurate. Like, sometimes the colors would be a little bit too cool in the EVF or a little bit too warm, which is just interesting. I don't know if it's something with my specific camera or I don't know, but also I noticed that sometimes the shots looked a little bit darker or lighter in the EVF than they actually turned out when I looked at them on the LCD. So I don't know, your mileage may vary. Don't get me wrong though, despite these quirks, this is an amazing camera and I'm so glad that I brought it on this trip. This thing honestly made photography fun and simple again. No need for extra bags, no lens decisions. I mean, you just always have it right with you. You have exactly what you need to get the shot. Now, yeah, you might want to get a telephoto lens, you might want to get a wider lens, but this works. Like, this will get 99% of the shots that you actually need from your trip. And the results don't even need editing because of those film sims, so it just makes the whole trip experience more fun. This camera definitely felt right for this trip, and I'm glad that I took it over all my other cameras. It is not perfect, as I've illustrated, but it is 100% enjoyable, and that's really just what matters here, right?